Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is the show that takes your most important sources, articles, research, maybe even your own notes, and really boils them down to the key insights, giving you a shortcut to being genuinely well-informed. Today, we're jumping into a really crucial topic, especially if you're navigating the modern business world, ethics and privacy concerns. And our discussion today, it's based on material from Richard Tedmon and Casey Wilhelm's textbook, Connect Master, Management Information Systems, from McGraw Hill 2024 edition. So whether you're maybe a student right here at the Dr. Sam Pack College of Business, thinking about your future career, or maybe you're already professional, or just someone interested in management, business operations, MIS, well, this deep dive is designed to help you really get a handle on these key ideas, clearly and hopefully engagingly. We're here to help you understand those ethical tightropes that companies walk every day. And also, how we protect individual privacy in this super digital world we live in. Sometimes those two things, ethics and privacy, they even clash. We'll get into that complexity.
Oh, and hey, before we really dive in, if you find this useful, please do like, subscribe, follow, share it around, maybe leave a comment. It helps us keep the conversation going. Okay, so let's start right at the beginning. What exactly are ethics when we talk about them in a business setting? And, how do they fit into this whole tech picture, especially for business students like you?
That's, a really fundamental question. Ethics, basically, it's a framework. It gives you guidelines for leading, let's say, a virtuous life. But it's really important to understand ethics isn't exactly the same as your personal morals or religious beliefs or even just the legal system.
Okay, so not just following the rules then.
Not always, no. I mean, laws and religion, they can offer moral guidelines, sure, but the legal system itself, it often struggles to actually enforce ethical behavior. It's more about minimum standards, maybe.
Right.
And in management information systems, MIS, you'll find constantly that you have these competing values, competing interests, and that leads to some really complex ethical dilemmas. You can look at laws to sort of frame your ethical study, but just remember, law doesn't automatically equal ethics.
That makes sense. The law often feels like it's playing catch-up, doesn't it? Especially with tech moving so fast.
Yeah.
So how has this digital world specifically changed that ethical landscape for MIS? It feels like new problems pop up constantly.
Exactly. That's a great point. The digital age, I mean, especially the internet, it's made it incredibly hard sometimes to tell fact from fiction, right? And the sheer speed, the acceleration of data collection, that creates huge challenges for personal privacy and also for protecting intellectual property.
Like your ideas, your creations.
Precisely. And think about it, this explosion of online financial data, personal data, it's directly led to a massive jump in identity theft. And also these more sophisticated frauds like wire scams.
Where they trick companies into sending money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Or ransomware attacks where criminals literally hold your data hostage until you pay up. For you as business students, this just means the whole landscape of risk and responsibility. It's constantly shifting. And honestly, the stakes are getting much higher.
Okay, so bringing this down to like the day-to-day in a company, what are some common computer ethics violations we actually see in the workplace? And, how do organizations typically try to handle them?
Well, first off, it's absolutely vital for companies to set up clear ethical standards for computer use. A really common mistake, honestly, is employees using their work computers kind of like their personal devices.
Yeah, I can see that happening.
It happens a lot. And it's not just a small thing. It can seriously drag down performance, not just for the person, but for the whole network. It can lead to major network security breaches, loss of really critical company data, and even things like harassment charges if inappropriate stuff is accessed or shared.
Wow, okay. So it's serious.
It is. That's why a lot of organizations use employee monitoring software. Now, the goal isn't usually to spy, right? It's more to discourage misuse and just remind everyone, hey, these systems are for business purposes. Generally, these violations, they fall into two main buckets. First, you've got actual illegal activity. These are criminal acts using company systems, like hacking, fraud, that kind of thing. Obviously, that involves law enforcement. The second category, which is probably more common day to day, is organizational policy violations. This is stuff like sending excessive personal emails, doing your online shopping on company time, spending hours on social media or playing games. Managers usually handle these kinds of policy breaches internally.
Okay. And say, I see something happening. What's my role? Am I supposed to be the workplace police?
good question. Most companies do require employees to report serious violations, usually to a supervisor or maybe the network administrator. But, it's always smart to pause and consider if what you saw could maybe be misinterpreted.
Ah, okay. Don't jump to conclusions.
Exactly. Your job isn't really to constantly monitor your coworkers. It's more about upholding the company's standards responsibly and reporting genuine concerns through the right channels when you see them.
Got it. Now, you hear about organizations having ethics boards sometimes to help guide them. What are the key areas, I think the text calls them the 5 dimensions, that these boards focus on when it comes to digital ethics? This sounds like something really important for future managers to understand.
You're right. It's a really useful framework. These boards of ethics, usually made up of, concerned managers, employees, they establish principles around 5 major types of ethical challenges in this digital age. These are the 5 dimensions. First up is information rights. Think of this as kind of the digital need to know. It's all about who has the right to access what personal information, like who really needs to know how many sick days an employee took and what happens if that info gets out.
Yeah, that could cause problems.
Big problems. It's often this really tricky balance between needing information for operations and respecting individual privacy. Get it wrong, and you erode trust fast. Second dimension, copyright and intellectual property rights. This is about making sure original creations, company innovations are rigorously protected. As a manager, you need to foster respect for IP. Like, should an employee use that expensive company software to write their personal novel?
Probably not, right?
Generally, no. It's for company work. Respecting that is key for innovation and staying legal. Third, control and accountability. This asks, who's actually responsible when something goes wrong, like a privacy violation or a data breach?
So who takes the fall?
Well, hopefully it's about responsibility, not just blame. But yeah, if, say, your local company gets blamed because data was stolen through a partner's weaker security, who in your organization is ultimately accountable? Defining that upfront is critical. Fourth is establishing standards. This means setting clear behavioral examples for everyone. And this gets really challenging with social media everywhere. Like, is it okay for an employee to list their specific company role on their personal, maybe political social media page?
Blurring the lines.
Exactly. Clear standards help avoid that ambiguity. And finally, fifth, quality of life. This one's broader. It's about balancing societal values like freedom of expression versus protecting people from harm. Think about age verification on websites. Does that requirement infringe on adult users' rights, even if it's meant to protect kids?
That's complex.
It is. It's about making sure technology ultimately improves society rather than degrades it.
Wow, that's a lot of potential friction points. So many balancing acts. When managers face these kinds of situations, how do they actually make responsible decisions? Is there, a process for working through an ethical dilemma?
Yeah, there is. And first, let me just say, ethical behavior absolutely has to start at the top, with leadership. If managers act unethically or maybe just look the other way, it sends a message, right? It basically encourages unethical behavior throughout the whole organization. Setting the right tone is crucial for any aspiring business leader listening.
Lead by example.
Totally. Now, for the process, there's a pretty widely recognized 5-step analysis for ethical dilemmas, especially in this digital context. Step 1, get the facts. You've got to do your homework. Research thoroughly, understand all the details, no assumptions.
Okay, facts first.
Facts first. Step 2, determine who is affected, identify all the stakeholders involved, and, importantly, be honest with yourself. Do you, as the decision maker, stand to gain personally from one choice over another? Need to check that bias.
Good point. What's next?
Step 3, search for precedents. Has this happened before? Look for company guidelines, existing policies. Talk to other managers who might have faced something similar. You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Learn from the past. Makes sense.
Step 4, list the options. Brainstorm all the potential actions you could take, even the uncomfortable ones. And here's a really practical gut check for this step quitter. Think about the Twitter test.
The Twitter test.
Yeah. Ask yourself, would you be comfortable if your decision and your reasoning was posted publicly on Twitter or any public forum for everyone to see and judge? It's a quick way to check if you're okay with transparency.
I like that. Puts it in perspective. And the last step.
Step 5, make a decision and prepare for unintended consequences. Because almost every decision, especially in complex MIS situations, is going to have ripple effects you didn't foresee. So make the best call you can, but also think ahead about what might happen next. That's part of responsible leadership.
That Twitter test is powerful. So beyond these steps, Are there some underlying, maybe guiding principles that can help inform these tough calls, especially around IT, privacy, IP rights, like an ethical compass?
Absolutely. Think of these 5 basic ethical principles as your compass points. First, the principle of moral rights. This upholds certain fundamental moral values, rights that people have. For example, you might ask, does an employee's right to privacy outweigh the company's need for, say, hyper-efficient operations? That's a classic conflict you'll see.
Okay, moral rights. What else?
Second, the principle of virtue. This asks, what would a person known for their high moral character do in this situation? It helps you step outside your own self-interest and think more objectively.
Kind of removes the personal bias.
Hopefully, yes. Third is the principle of distributive justice. This basically says that rewards and also burdens should be distributed fairly, equitably, based on things like effort or contribution. Employees often judge fairness based on how a decision hits them personally, so understanding this helps manage perceptions.
Right. Fairness matters.
Hugely. Fourth, the universalist principle. This checks if a decision is fair to everyone involved. Could you apply the same decision universally in similar situations? For instance, protecting one employee's privacy in a certain way might seem unfair to others if the logic isn't clear or consistent.
Consistency is key.
Yes. And finally, fifth, the utilitarian principle. This is the greatest good for the greatest number idea. Focuses on the outcome, the consequences. Basically, the ends justify the means sometimes.
But that sounds potentially tricky.
It can be. While it aims for the best overall outcome, it might clash with individual moral rights or that virtue principle we talked about, and it can sometimes overlook those unintended consequences. So it's a powerful principle, but you need to apply it carefully, maybe alongside the others.
That's a really helpful ethical toolkit.
Okay.
Let's pivot a bit now to internet privacy. We hear about it all the time, it feels like. But what does internet privacy actually mean for us as individuals and as future professionals? And what kind of legal backup do we really have?
Right. So privacy, at its root, is your right to control your personal information. What's shared, what's kept private. Internet privacy specifically is about how your information is stored, distributed, maybe displayed online.
Okay.
Now, there's actually a UN General Assembly resolution from 2013 that says the rights people have offline should also apply online, which sounds great. But you have to remember, digital privacy isn't absolute. And honestly, not all websites or even countries honor it the same way.
So it varies a lot.
It varies hugely. International laws are all over the place, which makes any kind of global standard really difficult. That's why you need to be careful when you're online, especially traveling abroad. The EU, for example, has its GDPR, the Data Protection Directive, which is very strict about how personal data is collected. That's why you see all those cookie consent banners on European sites.
Ah, that explains those.
Yep. Now, in the U.S., it's a bit different. The First Amendment protects freedom of speech, and that extends to the internet. So generally, there's less government filtering of content compared to some other places. This has knock-on effects, like for child protection laws online, often putting more responsibility on parents to supervise.
Okay. So what are some key U.S. laws or acts we should know about?
For business students, yeah, there are a few key ones. The Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA, from '98 that protects intellectual property online, really important for anyone creating content. The Electronic Communications Privacy Act, ECPA, from '86 that protects your emails, your VoIP calls from being intercepted without a warrant, kind of like a digital wiretap protection.
Yeah.
Then you have the U.S. Patriot Act and the more recent USA Freedom Act. These were passed mainly to help law enforcement monitor communications for terrorist activities. They represent that ongoing tension between national security and individual privacy.
The constant balancing act.
Always. And finally, the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act, CFAA. This is more straightforward. It prohibits unauthorized access to computers or networks. It's your basic anti-hacking law. So, you see, it's more like a patchwork quilt of laws, not one single comprehensive privacy law.
Right, a patchwork. So even with these laws, it still feels like our privacy is constantly, under threat. What are some of the biggest things challenging our online privacy today that we really need to be aware of?
Oh, definitely. A huge one is cookies. These little text files websites stash on your computer's hard drive. They're meant to customize your experience. Now, first-party cookies from the site you're actually visiting, generally, okay, maybe helpful.
Like remembering your shopping cart.
Exactly. But it's the third-party cookies that raise alarm bells. These come from other websites, like advertisers embedded on the page you're visiting. They're often seen as a major privacy invasion because they can track your browsing habits across different websites over time.
Like someone following you around the mall.
That's a great analogy. A first-party cookie is maybe the store clerk remembering you. A third-party cookie is like a detective following you from store to store, noting everything you look at or buy.
Creepy.
It can feel that way. Now, there are session cookies, which are temporary, gone when you close your browser. They mostly track your current visit. But persistent cookies, they stay on your hard drive, collecting preferences, login info, your IP address, and tracking your surfing behavior long-term.
And that's the risky part.
That's where the biggest risk lies. That data, your surfing habits, can be collected and sold to third parties. They build profiles about you, monitor your behavior. Corporations, even governments, can use this. Learning how to manage cookies in your browser settings, that's a basic digital hygiene step everyone should take.
Good advice.
Wise.
What else?
Then there's spyware. This is actual malicious software designed to collect sensitive info like your keystrokes, passwords, account numbers. You often get it unknowingly, maybe bundled with a free download you thought was safe.
Yikes.
Yeah. Two common types are keystroke loggers, which literally record everything you type, and packet analyzers, sometimes called sniffers. They capture data moving across a network. Now, legitimate sniffers help diagnose network problems, but unauthorized ones are used purely to steal information.
Okay, so cookies track browsing, spyware steals data. What about this whole opt-in versus opt-out thing we see on websites? Sometimes it feels confusing, like they want you to agree without realizing it.
You're right to be wary. These are just methods companies use to get your permission, your consent, to access your information or track you. With an opt-out system, the little checkbox giving consent is already checked for you. You have to actively uncheck it if you don't agree.
So the default is yes.
Exactly. The default is yes. With an opt-in system, the box is empty. You have to actively check it yourself if you do agree. Generally, opt-in is considered much more user-friendly and, frankly, more ethical from a privacy standpoint because it requires your explicit, conscious consent.
Opt-in seems better.
Most privacy advocates agree. As a future business leader, pushing for opt-in methods where possible really shows a commitment to respecting your customers' privacy.
Okay, that makes sense. Shifting gears slightly beyond our personal privacy, how do we protect the actual knowledge and ideas created in this digital world? The intellectual property.
Right, that's where intellectual property or IP law comes in. It's basically about protecting human knowledge, ideas, creations against unauthorized use. It generally falls into 4 buckets: patents, trademarks, copyrights, and trade secrets.
Okay, tell me about copyright.
Copyright gives protection to original works of authorship. Think books, plays, music, art, software code, website designs. But here's a key point. Copyright protects the expression of an idea, not the idea itself. It doesn't cover procedures, systems, names, titles, or short phrases.
Just the specific way it's written or created.
Exactly. Now, a patent is different. That's a grant from the government to an inventor. It gives them the exclusive right to stop others from making, using, or selling their invention for a set period. There are utility patents for new machines or processes, and design patents that protect the unique look or appearance of an object.
And the DMCA fits in here.
Yes, the Digital Millennium Copyright Act, DMCA we mentioned earlier, specifically tackles copyright in the digital realm. It tries to make it harder to copy digital media illegally, protects internet service providers from liability for what their users do, and also helps facilitate things like distance learning by giving educational institutions some latitude with copyrighted material. It's the main law trying to keep copyright relevant online.
Okay, this is all super helpful. Let's tackle another huge topic in MIS, big data. We hear that term constantly. What exactly is it, and what are the privacy implications we need to think about?
So let's break it down. Simple data just refers to raw facts, numbers, words, measurements describing something. Structured data is data that's organized, like in a spreadsheet or database, with defined fields. Now, big data, that's different. It refers to the methodologies, the tools, the techniques for dealing with information that is incredibly vast, incredibly complex, and accumulating at an extremely high velocity.
So, like, way beyond a normal spreadsheet.
Way beyond. Traditional databases often just can't handle it. Big data requires advanced software and often uses things like predictive analytics to try and figure out future behavior based on past patterns.
Okay, and the privacy part. That sounds like where it gets concerning.
It's hugely concerning. Big data systems track enormous amounts of our digital activity.
Yeah.
What we click, what we buy, where we go, sometimes even our health data, all to predict what we might do next. This raises really profound ethical questions for you as future professionals. Is it okay to track every single internet search? Or use someone's medical records or DNA results to predict their health risks, or maybe influence their insurance rates or job prospects?
Wow.
Yeah. The potential impact on personal privacy is immense. That line between useful business insight and unacceptable personal invasion, it can get very blurry with big data.
So how are companies actually using all this data? And where are they getting it all from?
Well, corporations use big data for all sorts of insights, mostly aimed at boosting profits, right?
Mhm.
Logistics and supply chain management is a huge area, predicting demand, optimizing routes. It's used for things like weather predictions to anticipate business risks. Insurance companies use it heavily for actuarial analysis, figuring out risks, and setting premiums. And, frankly, many corporations also find there's a lot of value in just selling the data they collect to other corporations. Data itself has become a valuable commodity.
Okay, so where does it come from? How do they collect it?
Primarily three ways. First, direct inquiry. This is when you, the user, directly give them data. Think loyalty cards at the grocery store, fitness tracker apps you use, online surveys you fill out.
Right, stuff I choose to share.
Supposedly. Second is indirect tracking. This is where technologies like those cookies we discussed or web beacons track your browsing habits without you actively offering the info. Even some mobile games can track your phone's browser activity in the background. Can be. And third, increasingly common, is third-party data purchase. Corporations literally buy and sell huge data sets of consumer information from specialized data brokers or database marketing companies.
So they're buying info about me from someone else.
Often, yes. Combining data from multiple sources to build a more complete profile.
Okay, with all this data flowing around, and we hear about breaches all the time, how is it actually protected? It seems like a massive challenge.
It is a massive challenge. Protecting big data means safeguarding both its integrity, making sure it's accurate, and its security, keeping it safe from unauthorized access. Data breaches are unfortunately really common and incredibly expensive for companies. Reputational damage, fines, lawsuits.
Brilliance, right?
Millions, sometimes billions globally. One major trend we're seeing to combat this is a shift towards using third-party cloud storage providers. The argument is that specialized cloud companies can offer much better, more sophisticated security measures than many individual companies can manage on their own.
Like outsourcing security.
In a way, yeah. It also aims to reduce human error. You might be surprised, but simple ignorance or negligence by employees clicking a bad link, using a weak password accounts for over half of all data breaches. Centralizing security with professionals in the cloud can, theoretically, reduce those risks. It makes data security less of just an IT issue and more of a core business strategy issue.
That makes sense. It can feel pretty overwhelming, trying to keep your privacy safe in this digital world. Is it even possible? What concrete steps can we as individuals, as students, as future professionals actually take to reduce our risks?
Yeah, it can feel impossible, I get that. But while complete safeguarding might be unrealistic, you can absolutely take steps to significantly reduce your risk. First and foremost, passwords. Use strong, unique passwords for every single important account. Don't reuse them.
Easier said than done sometimes.
I know. That's where password management software can be a lifesaver. It generates strong passwords and remembers them for you. And remember, a password just verifies the password itself is correct, not necessarily that you are the one entering it. So other security layers like two-factor authentication are also really important.
Okay, strong passwords, maybe a manager. What else?
Antivirus protection, absolutely essential. Keep reputable antivirus software installed and updated on your devices. It scans for and removes viruses, malware, spyware. There are different types: signature-based looks for known virus fingerprints, heuristic-based looks for suspicious behavior.
You need to pay for it.
There are great free options and paid ones. Honestly, many free antivirus programs do a surprisingly good job at detection these days, though they might have ads or fewer features than paid versions. The key is to have something and keep it updated.
Got it. Antivirus is a must.
Definitely. Third, safe browsing and online purchasing habits. Use your browser's private or incognito mode when you want to limit cookie storage, though remember, your IP address can still be tracked. For more robust anonymity, consider using a virtual private network, or VPN.
How does a VPN help?
It basically hides your real IP address by routing your internet traffic through a secure, encrypted server somewhere else. Makes it much harder for websites or others to track your location and activity directly back to you. Also, always, always look for HTTPS in the website address bar before entering sensitive info. That NES means the connection is secure and encrypted.
HTTPS, check. What about shopping?
Big one here. Try to use credit cards, not debit cards, for online purchases whenever possible. Credit cards offer a crucial layer of fraud protection between the hackers and your actual bank account cash. If a credit card number is stolen, it's the bank's money at immediate risk, not yours, and the dispute process is usually much better.
Good tip. Debit cards are riskier online.
Much riskier. Finally, credit monitoring. You're legally entitled to one free credit report each year from the 3 main bureaus, TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. Get them. Check them for any errors or accounts you don't recognize. Checking your own score is just a soft inquiry. It doesn't hurt your rating.
So check your credit report annually.
Yes, and combine that with just regularly keeping an eye on your bank account and credit card statements online. Look for any weird charges. Catching fraud early makes a huge difference. Being proactive about your digital financial health, that's really on you.
That's really practical advice. Okay, one last area we absolutely have to touch on because it's exploding right now. Generative AI. Things like ChatGPT. What are the big ethical questions popping up around this technology?
Oh, generative AI. Yeah, it's powerful, it's developing incredibly fast, and it brings a whole host of new and, frankly, complex ethical concerns to the table. A major one is definitely around copyright and intellectual property.
How so?
Well, these AI models are trained on absolutely massive amounts of data, often scraped from the internet. Does that training data include copyrighted material used without permission? And who owns the copyright on the text or images the AI generates? The user who prompted it, the company that built the AI. The law is still scrambling to figure this out.
Right, lots of lawsuits already.
Exactly. Then there's its use in areas like human resources. Using AI to screen resumes or even conduct initial interviews, it raises huge questions about potential bias baked into the algorithms, fairness, and transparency. How do you ensure the AI isn't discriminating, even unintentionally?
A big challenge for HR.
A very big one. And of course, in education, educators are grappling with students potentially using generative AI to write essays or complete assignments without doing the actual learning or thinking themselves. It challenges the whole integrity of assessment and understanding.
So it's not just about plagiarism.
It's deeper than that. It's about whether genuine learning is happening. So yeah, generative AI is this incredibly powerful tool, but it demands really careful ethical thought at every single stage. It's not just about what the technology can do, but critically, what it should be allowed or encouraged to do.
Wow. So much to think about there. Well, that brings us toward the end of this really comprehensive deep dive into ethics and privacy concerns in management information systems. We've covered a lot of ground from defining ethics itself, understanding those 5 key dimensions, how to analyze dilemmas, the guiding principles, navigating the tricky world of internet privacy laws, protecting ourselves from threats like cookies and spyware, and delving into big data and now generative AI. So as you, our listeners, step forward maybe into internships, first jobs, or further in your careers as business professionals, here's something to chew on. How do you think the increasing use of generative AI, specifically in business operations, might fundamentally shift how we approach ethical decision-making in the workplace in the coming years? What kind of new ethical guidelines or maybe even core principles might become necessary that we haven't even thought of yet? We would genuinely love to hear your thoughts on that down in the comments. And hey, if this deep dive helps you get a better grasp on these critical, complex topics, please do hit like, subscribe, follow us, maybe share it with a classmate or colleague, and comment. Stay tuned for more deep dives. Thanks so much for joining us today.